Into Unsolved RI. You have a team that works with you.
Oh,
correct?
yeah.
Why don't you give them a shout out and tell us about, she's getting her cards.
Tell
us about the members of your team and what they do for you.
So there's so many different members, and I say that
hopefully there's not like thousands because we're going to be here too long.
I mean, there's hundreds. When you start talking about the Uncovered community and just the collective impact of that platform and community, it's crazy. I would say some of the main folks, Katie Tadlock is one of the main moderators with Unsolved RI, who helps out with the social side of it and really keeps it going. And anytime there is a missing person case, she is the number one person I go to. She's helped us really make an impact on those cases by sharing them across the East Coast Missing and Unsolved group, and also the Buried Cold Cases group, which collectively there's over 250,000 members in that. So kind of a huge network to be able to share different victims who need to have their stories highlighted. So that's Katie. Then we also have Rachel Rosslet, who is the head of data visualization, and she also does a whole ton of work over at the Uncovered site. She's on their leadership team, and she's amazing. She really got me onto the platform, and she's fantastic. And then there is Jolyn Rice, who she is with Cold Case Advocacy based in New York. And she's also one of the leaders of the community side of Uncovered. She's helped significantly with, when we're stuck with a case of like, how can we bring this any further? She's the one who's sort of like, let's get them connected with this person or that person. There's so many people. I'm also involved with the Licensed Private Detectives Association of Rhode Island. That's a recent one, but I'm very excited about that group. A ton of great people. And if there's any law enforcement folks listening or PIs, we're always accepting new members and would love to hear from you. I also have to give a huge thanks to Chad Priddle. So Chad Priddle is over at Paracrime TV. He is a Canadian individual who's presently living in China. And he helps visualize, or revisualize, I should say, some of our case summaries. So one that always comes to mind for people is for Nicole Parsons Bucky. She was a 27-year-old mother who was killed on 9/11. Her case did not get the media attention that it needed at the time because it was 9/11.
Right.
So all these years later, we all work very closely with Robin Parsons, she is the fierce mama bear advocate for Nicole. And she's also now broadened her efforts to try and prevent the situation for other young persons who are in domestic violence situations. But anyway, Chad really brought her case back to life, Nicole's case, by putting her timeline into a short video that used a lot of like stock media, but just to give you the image of like what happened to her. But most importantly, he gave a timeline that showed this, tight space between events that really spelled out her case. And, things really took off from there. And now she's got people who are really reaching out and more attention on it, which is amazing. And he's done that for several of our cases and continues reaching out, wanting to do more. So thanks to all of those folks.
That's cool.
Othram Inc. Did you mention them? Because I read you work along with them as well.
So Othram, and public probably knows them more as DNA Solves. If you go on Facebook and you look up the DNA Solves Advocates group, those folks, they are based in Texas and they're using modern DNA testing, cutting edge technology to be able to solve cold cases, and they're really transforming the cold case game, reducing the backlog and giving long overdue justice to victims and families. I totally support their effort. And before Unsolved RI, I really channeled a lot of my energy into promoting their cases and trying to get them fully funded so that DNA testing could be done. So always grateful to them and inspired by what they're doing. And when it comes to Rhode Island cases, anytime there's, something's happened and there is a DNA sample where the subject is unidentified. I love hearing about those because that's what Othram specializes in, and they do it better than anybody. They work with the FBI and many other agencies across the nation. I would love to see them start solving cases in Rhode Island.
Now, you mentioned, I know in messaging me, there was I don't know if it was like a genetic testing that helped catch the Golden State Killer?
So the same DNA testing technology that they're using now to solve cold cases is the exact same kind that was used to catch the Golden State Killer. I want to say it was 2018. It was like right after I got reconnected with my brothers. And the same exact method that I used to find them, they used just a much more advanced version of that, where you're taking the DNA sample. And yes, you don't have this person in CODIS, which is the standard database that law enforcement always used. And CODIS looks at like 10 to 20 different markers for DNA analysis to try and produce a match, versus modern DNA testing, where you're looking at tens to hundreds of thousands of unique identifiers to pull a profile on somebody. So what they do with investigative genetic genealogy, which is the technique that was used to catch him and kind of like, my backyard version of it to find my brothers, they took the killer's DNA sample and then you just shake down the family tree.
Yeah, they found like an eighth cousin that once removed or some crazy thing like that.
And you just trace through census records and family records and social media. I'm sure that was a monumental effort and tons of people involved, obviously, but that's becoming the norm.